Yo, what's up, boys? My voice is shot. I just got back from Blizzcon. I'm fucking tore back, okay? But I'm here and I had to do a quick video for you guys because this is huge, all right? I'm sure you guys have heard all about Cata Classic, and Classic Plus, what's essentially Classic Plus, with Seasons of Discovery. However, thanks to Icy Veins, I had the honor to interview two of the top devs for Cata Classic and Seasons of Discovery with Aggrend and Nora, okay? So that's what this is. This is going to be a short little interview. It's about 30 minutes long. My voice is shot. Nora's voice is shot. So I had to tweak with the audio a little bit to try to help you guys be able to hear everybody. It's also just recorded from my phone, so it's not some phenomenal fucking interview, but you will learn a lot of stuff, bro. A lot of stuff. A ton of it. Like I said, I just got back in town today from Blizzcon. I've been gone for like 16 days or something. I literally recorded every class rune. I played it all. I'm going to start the videos tomorrow with that and keep you guys in touch, okay? We talked a little bit about Wrath right now. We talked about Cata, and we obviously Seasons of Discovery. I had a lot of questions. They were very nice and answered most of them, to be honest, so that was pretty cool. So kick your feet up, my boys. Grab some popcorn and let's get it.
I'm happy to be talking for Icy Veins.
Yes, that's what we're here for. We're here for Icy Veins, yeah. They were like, anybody want to do an interview? I was like, yeah. Just did one. I'll do another one. Yeah. So, like, I'm going to, obviously, there's Classic Plus, which I don't even know what to ask about that. So, I want to start with some Lich King stuff, if you don't mind.
Oh, sure.
We're at the end of it, right? With it wrapping up, are you guys happy with how the expansion went? Like, did it play out how you guys wanted it to, and with the words and stuff from the beginning?
Yeah, you know, I think we had to kind of like grow into like the Titan Dungeon thing a little bit, but we're very happy with how it ended up. Like, you know, we kind of got to the point where it's like press W and blast, and that it's pretty fun. And you know, old pre-nerf Old War was a blast. It was probably one of the most technically challenging things we've done from a pre-nerf, but it played out really, really well. And honestly, ICC has been everything we wanted. Like, you know, Lich King is a mythic boss. Right?
Yeah, that was the next question. Yeah. There's like 80 guilds that have killed him. Are you guys happy with that? Did you expect that, or were you kind of like, damn, I thought more would kill it by now?
We were worried that it would just get blasted through because of how, you know, just players are just better, right? But for the most part, yeah, we're pretty happy with it.
It's nice for people to have to kind of earn that, you know, the joy of having accomplished something. So I like it personally, yeah.
That's good. Are you allowed to say anything about Ruby Sanctum, or not, when it's going to come at least, or something?
It'll be early next year. Yeah, we're just going to very soon into 2024.
What about the ICC buffs?
TBD. So this is a tough thing. We want to wait until guilds. Like, there's a lot of guilds that really want to prog this as it was, right? And we learned a lot of good lessons from Serpent Shrine Cavern and stuff, where we kind of tried to like pull that nerf in a little bit too soon, and that really kind of upset some people. And it's like, so we're just gonna kind of we're waiting for people to tell us that they're ready for it a little bit. There's probably a period of time where like, okay, we just need to do it. But at the same point, like, we don't want to rush it. So no specific time frame.
I like it. Yeah. Would you guys ever? Because you know, there's people that like, they love Lich King. They love TBC Lich King. They don't want to play Cata, or they don't want to. Have you ever talked about like the TBC or an era version of him, kind of, for Lich King or TBC, kind of like how there is with Season, for people that want to just stay in that meta of Lich King or TBC?
It's something we've talked about. We don't have plans of doing, but again, it's one of those things that we continue to, you know, listen to player feedback and kind of go based on what the community is asking for.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting to kind of read some commentary after this. I haven't really had a chance to like read forums really on social media. We've just been kind of a whirlwind, but it's something that, never say never. Like, it's not something we have like necessarily in the cards right now, but we could, you know, someday maybe.
Okay. Well, with Cata, what are you the most excited about then? What are you excited to see, do, feel, or what are you excited to have us react to? You know what I mean?
I think for me personally, I'm excited to see us carrying over the new dungeon difficulties similar to Titan Rune dungeons over into Cataclysm. I think those were a huge hit. We've learned a lot, like Josh said, we've learned a lot through that, sort of letting players earn that power and then blast through, right? And basically making it easier for folks to catch them earlier as well as the expansion progresses. Another thing too is like we're making adjustments to the length of like our patch cadence basically, and how long a raid tier has been released. We don't want folks to kind of, you know, get through a raid, like continue to clear it, and have it kind of drag on. And so we do plan on kind of speeding things up a little bit there.
Yeah, we've talked about this in a couple of other interviews, that I think it's really interesting to see what people think of Cataclysm with that faster cadence, because this is sort of an assumption, but I think it's a fair assumption that a lot of the reason that Cataclysm was divisive was because of the cadence. It was, especially Dragon Soul.
That's the main complaint is how long Dragon Soul was.
You know what I mean? Like, you can only do Spine of Deathwing so many times, right? And that's the benefit of Classic, is that we're obviously making adjustments, making changes and stuff, but we're not building the content. And so that's really the lag time for that's what dictates how long it is before another patch can come, is like building the content. Well, it's already built for the most part. We're pulling a few levers on it, but we have a lot of agency in how fast to do that. And I'm really curious to see if sort of like a lot of people who are maybe like kind of never catas, like turn a corner on it.
I think they are. I think they will.
Yeah. I know a bunch of people that a couple of years ago, like my guild, like they're like, I'm done it, right, at Lich King, but they're all just like, oh, actually, this is pretty good.
Now that it's here,
like, we're all still together. Let's just keep the party rolling. So it's like, I think that's cool.
I think that's one of the cool things of working on Classic is as we release, as we work on our progression servers, it's one of those things that like we can sort of reimagine these experiences and make adjustments where it makes sense for a modern audience.
Yeah, totally. But objectively the content I'm looking forward to the most is Firelands.
Yeah, me too.
I love Firelands.
Yeah, I love it.
It's a banger. It's one of my favorites.
That's like, I think it's the best raid ever in the world.
Yeah,
I've ever done. I Karazhan was my favorite for a while, but now that I think it's Firelands.
The funny thing about Firelands too is I had kind of just gotten I changed positions at Blizzard when it came out, and I was working a night shift, so I couldn't do heroic.
Oh.
I did heroic later, but I didn't do it when it was current, so I'm super jazzed. I did some of it when it was current, but I didn't do all of it. I never killed Ragnaros when it was current, so I'm super jazzed to go back and actually do that this time.
Does how the lockouts work with the 10 mans and 25 mans sharing a lockout and then same eye level loot? Are you guys going to mess with that at all? Or are you thinking about keeping that the same?
I mean, probably not. Like, I think it's likely that we'll make some adjustments. I don't know. I don't want to speak out of turn. I don't want to make a promise, honestly. I think we're still going to probably just be evaluating that. Like, one of the problems, or one of the challenges, let's say, with Cataclysm was that there wasn't a very good incentive to be in a 25-player guild when you could kind of just go do the same thing in 10. But on the same note, some encounters are way harder on 10 heroic, like super hard, and others are a lot easier. So I think that might be kind of a differentiator that might keep people in that 25-player, and also like. It depends on your guild too. We really like the idea of being flexible. That if you do have a smaller guild, letting you kind of keep rolling with that smaller guild seems to make sense. And what you want to talk about guild improvements too.
So we do plan on making some adjustments to the guild progression system because initially when Cata launched back in the day, the guild rewards very much rewarded big mega guilds, and so what I saw personally, and I think what a lot of other people saw, was their cute little mom and pop type guilds ended up kind of dispersing as we were like, hey, really want to collect those sweet rewards, and we went and joined mega guilds, and they got kind of large and wieldy. When the purpose of people like getting together to play is just for those rewards, like it got a little bit like cold and impersonal.
Or on the other side of it too, like my guild eventually broke up, but we kept inviting just randoms just to get more bodies, and that diluted the culture a little bit. And so that's like, we just want to steer away from that. So we really want to enable those mom and pop guilds to continue to exist or start to exist. But we're just gonna have to really take a look at the reward structure. What we did in next Ramus, whenever we went and added the 25 player league to 10 man, is we made the 25 player version drop an extra item.
Yeah.
So that might be something that's on in the cards to make it a little bit more incentive to actually do a larger raid size.
But you'd keep the eye level pretty much the same.
Oh yeah, I don't think there'd be any adjustments there. But honestly, it could still change. We're still kind of evaluating the design there.
Okay. What about the talent structure? I know one complaint was you're locked into one. Like you can't hybrid. It took out the ability to go hybrid, where you needed to get that last point in order to get into a next tree.
The thing about talents that's funny is we really strongly considered like a major talent overhaul, but actually by the end of Cataclysm had a ride, right, of class talents and class design. But by the end of it, for the most part, a lot of classes ended up in a very good place. And so there's a risk of doing more damage than good.
Yeah, I play Warlock, so I'm happy.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I mean, Paladins, honestly, all my main classes are really good by the end.
Well, that's the best thing about Cata is a lot of classes are good. They're it's not like warriors only in Classic, or warlocks and hunters in TBC. Like this is like a big broad. Like people ask me all the time what's good, and I'm in like 6 classes. I'm like just.
So it's kind of like we have like a weird situation where it's like the system itself is like, maybe if we could change it, we could, but it's like we don't want to do damage to what works, right? So I think a lot of what we're going to do, like we made very tactical changes to classes in Wrath, and we learned some lessons there too. But I think we're going to look at it and try and make as few sort of tactical adjustments as possible. But any kind of major system overhaul, probably not. Don't want to do more harm.
Yeah, it makes sense. This is super random, but you know how ZA and ZG is phase 2 would be like a phase 2? Because in the beginning, would you ever like just?
I think the way we're going to handle ZA and ZG, I don't know if we talked about this, but we're doing it, I guess. I think what we're doing with ZA and ZG is we'll probably do it like an interstitial, like half phase. Like we might not do a full patch for it, but there will be like, the launch and then, Bastion and Twilight, all those raids and stuff. And then some midpoint between that and Firelands, we'll just release them.
I like that. That's what was big, because that was like a whole phase for
Dungeons. No, it's not going to be a whole phase.
Yeah.
No. Like,
that's good. A lot of people are going to like that.
We're spacing it out by raid tier, for sure.
Good.
But that would be like a midpoint thing, right?
You mentioned, so for hardcore, you said the SSF's coming.
Yeah.
That's going to be cool. Is
SF.
SF?
Yeah.
Okay, true.
Is it
like on the same server, or is it going to be a different server? Or are we going to be playing like with the people we're playing with now?
Same server. So it'll be basically on character creation. It'll be a checkbox, a button for you to press that will basically enable self-found mode for that character.
That's dope.
So from character creation, you're entering the world with your restrictions: mailbox, trading, auction house, and at any point you can remove those restrictions if you're like, hey, this isn't for me. But you can't re-enable it, obviously. So.
Wait, you can take it off at some point?
You can.
You just.
But the way it'll work is you'll never be like shit. Never be able to put it back, and it's gonna key off of this Soul of Iron system that there's like the badges and the buff. And if you ever take it off, then you just lose it. But if you get to 60, you get a little badge up there that says I made it to 60.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, and we're investigating some things to make it a little bit more interesting. I don't want to say too much right now. We're going to talk about it more in the next probably few weeks and months as we get closer to the launch. But we got a couple little hidden tricks up our sleeve to make
that's exciting. Yeah, a lot of us are we're looking forward to that. Yeah, sure. How about that? In the Makra tournament, you guys like that? Was that magical to watch?
I love the thing. It was incredible.
Do you guys plan to do any like events, or are you kind of leaving it up to the community like that? I know you sponsor. I know you guys are partnered with them.
Yeah, and I think we're open. I mean, this is kind of actually outside of our department as the developers. No. We don't do event planning or anything. But like, I know that for my part, I would love to see more of that thing, more partnerships like that. So I'm hoping we can do more. I'm hoping the community wants to do more, wants to see more. I think we probably have a pretty good idea that they do. It was the most watched WoW event ever.
That was crazy.
That's pretty crazy, and it was super entertaining. Just like I was flying around on a GM account watching it, and it was great. It was awesome.
I was shirking my work duties watching.
Yeah, we all were. No one got work done that day. It was wild.
One more about hardcore is: would you ever, or have you guys talked about a fresh, like having a new fresh on it, or is it like going to be that server for? Whenever.
Not really something we've considered doing. I mean, again with the never say never thing, but for the most part, we think it's not quite as impactful as, say, just any other classic fresh server.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's also too, we don't there's people who played classic WoW for a while. There's always a call for fresh.
That was my next question.
And it's one of those things that it's like, we don't want to get in the habit of kind of almost setting an expectation that we're going to let a server run for 6 months and then basically intentionally
you have to do it fresh. Yeah.
And so it's like people like persistence too. There's a contingent that's like I just love the first 3 months of a server, right? And I think for those folks, like there's a little bit of a distance makes the heart grow fonder thing. Where it's like if we do it every 3 or 4 months, then at a certain point that's probably gonna get a little stale, right? So it's like let's let it breathe for a minute, let it see where it goes. We're gonna see, it's gonna be interesting to see kind of the impact that injecting self-found into the mix has. And like I said, we got a couple little surprises for that we might
that's
talk
exciting.
about soon. So
yeah.
We'll see what that goes.
How about LFR and Cata? You gonna let it in? What was the talks on LFR?
That's kind of something we're still discussing internally because we're aware of there being a potential for the dynamic where players kind of just queue for LFR and it maybe deteriorates some of that community feel of having to be part of a guild, a part of a group, core group to experience that content. But we are still actively discussing it behind closed doors. We do want to hear feedback from the community and what do players want, what do they want to see out of Cataclysm.
Yeah, I think after Wrath and we like learning lessons, right? And Wrath, we kind of went into it sort of with the assumption that the majority of people would not want random dungeon finder, and that was wrong. That was just wrong. and we don't want to get into a situation where we dig in on it, right? And then people start screaming at us for it, and it's like then we have to like really it's also like from a production perspective, I kind of in charge of schedules for the team, right? And I don't want to have to shoehorn in a feature later that I didn't plan for. So it's one of those things that we're not closing the door on it, but I think that we probably prefer not to for the reasons that Nora said.
What about some like solo queue stuff or PvPs that I ever flirted with? I feel like I should have more PvP questions. I'm just a PvP Andy, so I just like solo queues. I hear people talk about that.
That's a good one.
Not quite like I would say it's on the periphery of our radar. If that makes sense. We're like there's nothing on the books right now. I think if there were suddenly like an influx of people that were like, actually, that would be great. I'm so glad you asked that question. We do want to see something like that. Then we would I think spend a lot more time discussing it, thinking about it.
Okay. Yeah, we put out like a survey. We put out a couple of surveys about Cataclysm, and one of those things we get from them, we kind of look at the data, and it's like very impressive data models that we can use to like really gauge kind of like popularity of one feature over another. That was one of those things that was kind of like middling. Like we had a question about that on there, and it was like sort of middle of the pack. So it's one of those things that I think we have in the back of our head, but I think there's definitely some things we need to work out. I mean, even Modern WoW has some challenges with that, right? And it's an incredibly fun mode, but like this is a good opportunity too for us to kind of partner up with Modern. And if we were going to do something like that, we'd really want to take some cues from them and learn from them and what they learned from it and some things like that. So I mean, I'm kind of using a lot of words to say the same thing Nora said, that like never say never, but it is not really.
Okay, well. Classic Plus, or I guess Seasons of Discovery.
Yeah, sure.
I think the biggest question change, I've done the demo so many times now, but that is...
Speed running it?
Yeah, we sped around it, we did, yeah. We did. Yeah. Where'd the rune idea come from? The rune system? I guess let's start that. Where'd that come from? What was the idea of that?
I feel like I'm hogging the mic here. Do you want to try to take a stab at this?
I think it was more of a group effort.
Really.
I was about to start throwing out names, and I was like, I shouldn't do that. But I really do think, like, in general, we got together as a team. There was lots of brainstorming. There was lots of like, what should this system look like? How do we want players to interact with these abilities, these class-changing abilities, right? Do we want them to be like hot swappable, like you can just change them at any time, learn them like a book of spells, you know what I mean? Like, or do we want them to be like on use, it's used up or something like that? And we went basically the spells route, right? So you can at any time swap your abilities out, come up with some interesting builds. We decided to add quite a few runes, like 12 runes per class in the...
It started out with way more too before we kind of trimmed down.
Is it 12 per class period, or is it going to be more?
In the 1 to 25.
Okay, so like what I saw in my Warlock, for example, those are my runes.
Yeah.
For now.
And the example of like my Metamorphosis rune was in my glove slot. Is that always going to be the glove slot? Or can you put the rune in your pants slot?
That will go.
It'll be the glove slot, okay.
I mean, unless some like rebalance happens at some point, which we would try really hard to avoid that. Yeah. So the plan is for that to be that. To kind of build on that, like a little bit of deep lore for sort of the season is we have been talking about sort of the general idea of this season since literally WoW Classic beta in 2019.
That's crazy.
Like I remember being in a room with folks, and we had like we're watching on. It was before the pandemic, and we're together in the classic pit, you know, the bull pit or whatever. And we had it on TV. We're watching like I think it was a dueling thing that S-Fan was doing and his guild or whatever. And it was so fun to watch them just pull all the stops out and just wacky combinations of items and talents at level 30 or whatever. And it was just so fun to watch, and we really loved that. And so when we kind of started working backwards from that idea, or it was after Season of Mastery came out, we're like, what would we want to do next? We knew we wanted to do something a lot deeper than Season of Mastery. And when we started kind of working backwards from that idea, it was like, well, it would be really cool to have these level breaks, but what are you going to do during that? And one of the things is like, what if like there was like kind of like almost Easter egg hunts like kind of thing where, and at the time the idea was actually like, hey, why don't we just make these like new class abilities and stuff item set bonuses or something? And it's like, well, that's cool, but it's like, what if they don't drop? Like, what if, you know, there's a lot of things with that, like that kind of gatekeep some of the coolest stuff that you'd want to do behind, like you got to get lucky or you got to spend a bunch of gold or whatever. And so that's like, well, why don't we just have the runes be something that's discoverable, like as those discoveries? And so that's kind of like the genesis of it, but it's almost something we've been talking about for so many years now. It's sort of evolved that, you know, once we actually started working on it, we had a pretty good idea of kind of think what we wanted to do, and we just kind of barreled forward.
Yeah.
And the thing I said in the panel, being excited for players to venture forth and discover them on their own, like, I mean that because some of them are actually quite funny.
Yeah.
Like,
Are they gonna be harder to find, or is it, like, can you give an example of what it's like finding, like, is it like you went to a Goldshire Inn and there's like a box and it's there or something?
Some of them are that simple. Good, yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Well, someone else asked us, like, are these all just like quests or something or newly added? And I was like, maybe some of them are newly added quests that weren't there before in the game. However, most of them are things like, I've discovered this object in the world, let me interact with it. Oh, it tells me some kind of story, and it gives me hints of where to go, maybe look for the next clue, right?
Oh,
so
that's dope.
So it's actually quite almost, because we went into it knowing this was all going to be data mined eventually, right? And players were going to solve these and probably make an add-on for it or something. But we also realized that, like, even if data mining occurred, like if players don't go and venture out and like actually solve the riddles, they're probably not going to piece it together just by looking at the game files alone.
Is it like random? Like using a metaglyph? Is that metaglyph found or meta rune found everywhere in the world that one way, or is it?
Meta.
Yeah, of course. You know I am, because that's just a simple example.
You know, that's actually good. I'll go ahead and say that rune in particular is one that there's lots of categories of how they're discoverable, and that particular one is one that is part of kind of a chain. It's like, because that's really iconic.
Yeah,
it's like
yeah.
A very
I can't even explain to you how I felt when I sat down.
Right.
And logged in and saw that icon.
That discovery isn't going to be going and looting a chest. There's a lot to that. It might span multiple zones. There's a lot to it. It's
good.
And it's going to be a minute.
So the good runes, you make them work for it.
Yeah, for sure.
That's
good.
good.
I mean, good is subjective, right? But like the ones that are like impressive, like visually impressive or really iconic, like those are the things that you might have to work for. But it's different. Some are chests. Some are you find an NPC, you speak to them, and they may have a special interaction, and they have you do a thing. Like some of them are traditional quests. It's very varied, and there's hundreds and hundreds of them in the 1 through 25 because there's so many different starting zones that we had to duplicate the runes, but we didn't necessarily duplicate the discovery method. Yeah. So some zones have their own flavorful discovery methods that are flavorful to that zone and classes in that zone.
So you can't earn the same rune by doing different things.
You can.
Is it like you get the rune in your bag, use it, and now it's a rune?
Yes. Yep, you've earned it. Yeah.
Can you? I don't know why it'd matter. They're not. You can't trade them or nothing, right? So I'm only going to find a warlock one. So I can't go find a mage one, right? Okay.
And some of the discoveries do have a cross class element. Like, you know, I don't think it's too spoilery to say, but like there's maybe one rune where you find a dead character and you have to do like a ritual to like send their soul to the Shadowlands, right?
Better be a warlock one, right?
You need 2 healers for that, right? But like either healer could get their own class rune.
Oh, that's well, that's gonna be exciting. It's gonna be fun, just like little Easter eggs running around trying to get them.
Exactly. There's a lot of stuff like that.
And it gives you like excuses to interact with other people too.
Yeah, totally. And you're gonna see a lot of people shouting. It's like, hey, I found this thing. I don't know what to do. Does anybody know? And it's like, oh, I know. It's like, oh, I need a buddy for that. Can you come and help me with it? And like that's the intent. Anyway, that's what we hope.
That's the exciting part is people were saying like if it's capped at 25, that's going to take. Is it like you didn't change? Are you changing the experience gain from 1 to 20? It's just whatever it is right now.
Yeah, it's what it is.
So that's like super fast. And I'm like, yeah, but now you can go run around everywhere and find all your runes.
For sure.
Yeah.
And the way we kind of built it too is like we talked in the panel about there's like a tutorial rune, right? Honestly, if you find nothing but that tutorial rune until you hit 25, you're still going to be kind of pumping. Like the first paladin rune I showed was Crusader.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I mean, that alone, like, huge change to the paladin level.
Yeah.
And if you found nothing else until you hit 25, you'd be jamming.
Yeah.
And most other classes are like that.
The crowd cheered so loud when I said Crusader Strike. I knew they'd cheer, but I didn't expect that.
And then the first was the taunt right into it. It was like the paladins were going crazy.
Yeah, I was so startled. Yeah.
Exactly.
You find them pretty easy level, and I'll just level out and find some runes. Maybe I'll find meta right away. Just like drop it there for me. It's on the ground right there. She's like, check the dirt ground pile right there.
I mean, some of them are pretty. They're on the critical path, and some of them are a little off the beaten path.
Okay, about the demo tanking, was your thought like, can you main tank as a demo? Or is it supposed to be on par with like a warrior tank, paladin tank, feral druid, or is it more like off tank you're helping? I've noticed I'm holding threat easily, but like I don't, in gear.
It should be able to contend with other tanks.
So it's a tank. It's like this is gonna be a main tank.
I think if you've noticed playing the demo enough too, like you play Horde, if you're trying to shaman tank Baron and Quantus, you might have a bad time. You're not going to have enough mana, right? Because shamans, they get a lot of their mana regen from blocking, right? So, you got a heavy physical fight, they're your guy. But for something like Baron and Quantus, you can hit them from range with Searing Pain, and you're good, you're chilling.
Yeah.
Even if you get knocked out, you're still going to hold aggro. So that's one of the things that we thought was cool, like still letting them keep some unique flavor. But they're still, and that's how Classic is, right? Like, a warrior is good for something, a bear is good for something else. A bear can really pump threat with like an MCP, manual crowd pummeler, and like a warrior is just really good at just massive sustained threat over time or massive brick tanking if you really need to like soak those unbalancing strikes and stuff like that, right? So
I like that. Are you guys? A lot of people are questioning it. Are you guys worried or thinking about level 60, the raids at 60 with the runes? With the raids already being like really, really easy without the system, and now that's going to make even everybody like more powerful. Is there like a buff to them or something?
One thing we are doing, like to the open world in general, even is we're increasing the damage output of mobs, such that like at least you should feel threatened. You shouldn't be able to pull an entire zone in Classic and be able to just tank that. And so and we also thought about we initially talked about well, should we increase everything's HP as well? And I was like, well, we also don't want stuff to be like you're just sitting there.
You want it to be more punishing rather than like just beating your head.
Yep.
And
I like that.
That's really the thing about vanilla too, is that it's like it's not necessarily that stuff has a ton of health. It's just that things hit you hard, and if you pull too many, you're gonna die. And that's we know that from hardcore. We know that from what I mean. So that was really the focus. Is well, let's just make things more deadly, so that you're still, if you're blasting, you're blasting. But if you pull 5 things, you're just gonna die. No getting around it.
Do you plan to change anything about the 60 raids, mechanically wise or anything, or it's like MC's MC?
It's honestly kind of too soon to say. I think it would be pretty surprising if we didn't make some adjustments, but it's just too soon to say specifics.
Yeah, that's fair. So what's the if you could even say that it's 25 and then it's going to be 35 or 40 or you're going to do a couple before 60 eyes take it, right?
So I think
we're being coy.
Yeah.
We're being coy a little bit about what the next level band is and what the next raid is and everything.
But you said it'd be a month, right?
No, it will be some number of weeks. We're trying to be unspecific about that. It's probably more than a month, less than 3 or 4 months. It'll be enough time for you to dig in, make sure you can find all the runes, make sure you can do the raid, get your best in slot from the raid if you want to get it. There's some discoveries that take you into the raid and things like that. Make sure that you have the ability to do all that.
I'm more worried if it's a couple months, unless you add more to it. If it's just BFD, right? It's going to be BFD. There's the one raid in that one bracket.
There's bracket right now.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
There's something too, if we too far in advance, if we decide hard dates on things and just say, okay, this is going to be out for this long, we really run the risk of too short or too long, right? And so we're trying to be really flexible, especially given our team size, we can pivot relatively quickly. And so that's why we're always ear to the ground, trying to figure out what feels good.
Okay, last raid question. Are they all going to be 10-man during these brackets?
Not sure yet, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, this is one of the cool things about kind of the power of creating content in WoW. Actually, we've got very robust tools that we've built up over decades, right? And it's not terribly difficult to kind of turn the knob and say like, oh, yeah, let's start working on this as a 10 player. It's like, you know what, this would feel better as 20. Let's just crank some numbers up, and it works. So obviously some mechanical changes and stuff, but yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say. I think the thing we're a little concerned about too is the nature of Season of Discovery too is that you may level to 25, find all the runes, level an altar too, and maybe you want to just kind of take a break for a week or two. Like we don't want to shackle you to the game. Approachability and respecting your time is a big goal here. So we don't also want to get in a situation that's like, well, you need 40 people, and if 5 people decide they want to take a break, your raid is in trouble, right? So that was part of the reason for like during the level up process, smaller raid sizes kind of made sense for that.
Are the battlegrounds in at the first phase?
Yes.
Warsong Gulch will be.
Yeah. Are you gonna do like the same thing, where it'll be like all level 25 one only, or like how's the brackets gonna work with it? Just the normal way?
Yeah, it'll be the normal way
Okay.
for the most part. PvP's honor system's on. People won't be able to grind out rank 14 because we're still scaling based on your level, how much honor rewards you can actually earn, right? So
Yeah,
That's cool.
You won't be able to get past a certain point.
yeah.
There's really good, like I think we mentioned this in the panel, that the Ashenvale PvP event gives Warsong Gulch rep for Horde Alliance, right?
Yeah.
And there's some pretty spicy rewards there. I don't know if you noticed what on the VOD and stuff, it's hard to see.
Yeah.
But those mount models, those are the original unarmored mount models.
Yeah,
for
it's a
Night
brilliant
Elf
idea.
and
Ashenvale
Horde.
is a brilliant idea.
And so you're going to get those from Warsong Gulch rep now.
That's
so very cool. And obviously they're only usable in Ashenvale, but they're very, very enticing rewards for that. So we're hoping PvP takes off really well.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'll be
Well, I
there with
appreciate
you,
it.
gank people.
Thank you guys so much.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Hope I didn't annoy you guys with my millions of questions.
Not at all, man.
Thank you guys.
Thanks so
You
much.
guys are amazing.